Hello and welcome to Psychology for Geeks. I am Dr. Elizabeth, or Dr. Gremlin, and depending on where you know me from. Uh, anyway, today I'm going to be talking about the neurodivergent lifestyle. So stick around and find out all about it. Not all about it, most of it. And yeah, just get started. Wait. I was going to use the wrong thing. Okay, so in order to keep me focused and not blabbing about this or getting super upset about the topic, I had this PowerPoint that's sort of like gonna guide me as to what I'm supposed to say and when I'm supposed to stop, because otherwise I'll be here for like 3 hours and I'll still be talking about it. All right, so the learning objectives today is talk about what neurodiversity is, what unmasking means, and talking a little bit about how self acceptance is sort of like one of the foundations of um, the neurodivergent lifestyle. Okay, so this is a new word, or this might be a new word for people. I am on the internet almost all of the time, sometimes because I am just doing something for my nonprofit, creating things just because, or sometimes because I am just doing it for fun. I am a millennial after all, and a geek and a nerd. So yes, I live most of my life is online. So you might have heard words like neurodiversity or neurospicy, neurodivergent, and essentially what it boils down to is that there are some of us who whose brain see the world, process the world, and understand the world in a different way than most people. And that's not bad. It just happens to be different, and it makes life really really difficult for us because everything around us was created with not us in mind, and not for us specifically. So it makes it really hard. So everything that's included in sort of like neurodivergent, the way that I try to explain it to other people is that it's sort of like an umbrella term because um it it incorporates a lot, or it covers a lot of things, right? Not only because I saw someone talk about it on their Twitch channel when they were doing a stream, and say that neurodiversity is primarily ADHD and autism, and someone said social anxiety or OCD is part of it, and they were like, no, it's not, because I've only heard about autism and ADHD. I'm like, those are the ones that you hear the most of uh, lately. But those are not the only ones that are included in this field, because again, it's all about how the brain processes the world, understands the world, and like sees the world, right? So someone who has dyscalculia, like, problems with like calculating numbers or math, or dyslexia, problems with like the letters, they see the world in a slightly different way. Their brain processes the world in a different way, right? So uh, we kind of have to have that understanding. And now I am not an expert in most of these, and that's why in this presentation I'm just going to cover just the basics. But if you have more questions about this, I highly recommend you ask a trained professional to provide more information on this. So I think one of the most important things that I would like anyone to take away from this video slash presentation slash stream is that just because we're different, it doesn't mean we're less. Or because there is sort of like this sort of this expectation that because you are neurodivergent, you're kind of like a child. And it is true in some ways. It takes a bit longer for someone who's neurodivergent to reach that age of maturity, or it's just easier for us to just have fun and do whatever it is that we enjoy without caring what other people say. So we're still like collecting toys, watching things that are made for kids, and all of that stuff that might not be seen as appropriate to other people. And so there is sort of like these ideas like, oh, you poor you have you're autistic, or poor you're struggling with like social anxiety. Like, they're not dumb. Again, they just process the world in a slightly different way. So it's not less. And I totally stole this from Different Spectrums podcast. I highly recommend you guys check them out because they're awesome. And uh yeah, so that's one thing that you have to keep in mind. Yes, the world was not created for us. Yes, it is a lot harder for us to really get anything done. Yes, our potential may seem like it's wasted on us, or some people may seem like that we're not, like, acting to our fullest potential or whatever it is. But we're not dumb. We're not less, or we're not worth less just because we're not able to do the same things, or because our brain processes things differently. We didn't choose this life, we were chosen. So again, something very important to keep in mind. And another thing that's very, very difficult for the person who has a diagnosis, or who is neurodivergent, and their family to understand, is that there's so much about the culture, the upbringing, that really pushes all of us to hide in some way. And I'll talk a little bit more about masking in a little while. But before that, I just wanted to like preface or start talking about how we need to understand ourselves, right? And this is a good idea, not only for someone who is neurodivergent or their families, but for everyone. We need to know what your preferences are. You need to know what your values are, because a lot of the times we're not living according to the things that we value, to the things that we respect. And then we are like, why am I so stressed? Why am I so depressed, so anxious? And I'm like, well, you're not living according to any of the things that you believe in. You're pushing yourself to being someone that you're not, and it doesn't come natural to you. So it's very easy for someone to fall into the trap of, oh, you're the middle child and you're supposed to do X, Y, and Z. If you were sort of like a troublemaker at school because you were just so fidgety, or because you were too intelligent, or you didn't understand social cues very well, and then you were labeled as the class clown or as a troublemaker, then you end up believing that. It kind of becomes this sort of self fulfilling prophecy where you start thinking, oh, it was me. There's something wrong with me because everyone is telling me. The teachers, my friends, random strangers that just go up to you and be like, stop that. Why are you doing that? Or they just give you sort of like weird looks. And eventually we learn. We learn to stop doing those things, to stop um, behaving like ourselves. And that's just really sad and also really difficult. I saw someone sort of like give this example before as to what it would feel like. Um, oh wait, I have two computers in front of me, and I hit the wrong one. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about masking, right? Because we eventually learn to mask everything about ourselves in order to fit in order to be able to have friends and people think that we're not weird, in order to be able to keep our jobs, right? So there's a lot of things that we need to consider, right? And I said, you need to know everything about yourself, about how you process the world, about how you learn, about how your senses work, and what your comfort zone is, in order for us to start slowly unmasking and being more comfortable with who we are. Once I sort of realized that I was neurodivergent, and I started seeking, therapy for it, and like a second opinion on my diagnosis, I started to realize that there was a lot of things I was kind of forcing myself to do, and I no longer had the energy to do that anymore. I was just so tired of having to pretend to be professional, to be someone that I am just not, or to be interested in things that I am not interested in, or to hide the things I was interested in. Like One Piece. um, so because everyone around us is often telling us no, it's not right, there's something wrong with you, we start internalizing that. We start feeling really bad about ourselves, about the things that we enjoy. So it becomes this sort of like secret hobby, or like this secret thing that I don't ever talk to anyone about. And even now, sometimes we go by so long talking about or hearing or even telling ourselves like there's something wrong with me and I need to like not do any of those things, that it, again, it can cause a lot of distress in us. And even then, like we may end up still with no friends, or still with no life, still with like a career that we don't really like, because we were just told that's what we needed to enjoy, or that's what we were supposed to do. So in order to start unmasking, and again, this is sort of like something that can be applied to pretty much anyone, not just someone who's neurodivergent, right? Because in some ways, we all learn to do this because we live in a society. We're not just sort of individuals, unless you were raised by parents who very much were telling you that hey, it's okay to be yourself, or you just came to a breaking point and realized, hey, I'm not really gonna care what other people think, because people have treated me like I am less than them, and that there's something wrong with me, so I'm just gonna live my life and not care about anyone else anymore. Right. So sometimes we kind of come to those things. Sometimes somebody lets us know that, hey, I don't think this is something that's comfortable for you. Let me show you like a different option. And that's when unmasking starts to happen. We start to realize, hey, you know what? I think I'm just more comfortable and I can pay more attention more accurately and sit for longer periods of time if I'm able to cross my legs like I am doing right now. Because otherwise, if I have to sit properly, I am very uncomfortable. I just like my legs are dangling. I don't like my legs dangling. I like my legs close to my body. And then so once I started doing that, I was like, wow, it's like night and day, me being able to like focus and get work done. Because now my brain wasn't trying to push aside like that sensory weirdness that it was experiencing because my legs were dangling. Now, does that mean that I always have to sit like this? No, it's just a preference, right? Sometimes I do sit quote unquote properly, but it doesn't last very long. I just prefer to sit in a different way. Sometimes we can't really focus unless we have somebody around, unless there's music in the background, unless it's really quiet, unless you have no distractions around you. I tend to be more. So there's two things that people might experience when it comes to the sensory. So it's under um no, what are the words? Hold on. Understimulated or overstimulated. I tend to be understimulated quite often. That's why I like a lot of things around me. So then I can be like, oh, that's cool. And I can just sort of like have a visual and be like, yeah, I love this. Yeah, I like the poster. Let me just get work done. Or like, oh, look, I like that one too. Right. And if there's like nothing around me, I just like my brain just kind of like turns to mush and it does not want to function. But for some people, it's the complete opposite. They need nothing around them to distract them. So again, that's why it's so important for us to start understanding what our sensory is like. Sometimes it depends on uh, when it comes to sensory things. I'm talking about like, okay, um what's it like for you to wear different kinds of clothes? Like a lot of I hear a lot of people say, oh, like soft clothes. Oh, soft clothes are the best, you guys. I highly recommend them. Anything that's too tight now, I'm like, I don't like tightness. It looks good, for fashion, but I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I'm all about comfort. I want to be comfortable, and I can still be comfortable and stylish. I just need to have a little bit of guidance because I don't normally know anything about fashion, right? But like, trying new things and figuring out. Because one time I went with my sibling who also has ADHD, and he doesn't really enjoy shopping, and kind of neither do I. I don't know, it's boring. And then so I was telling him, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna design like a new way for me to look at clothes that's faster. And at first I started with like the colors, because sometimes I go in, I'm thinking, hey, I want something in this specific colors because I don't like certain colors like on my skin tone, or that they kind of clash. So then I tend to uh only look by color. And then I started feeling the texture, and I was like, you know what? I only want like really comfortable, soft things. And it was so fast for us to get shopping done. And we ended up getting a lot of things that we both enjoyed, because we were just like touching we were just touching like the things that we were like, oh, this might be good, and we're like, nope, it's like too rough or itchy or scratchy. And then we were like in and out, and we ended up keeping a lot of the things that we I mean, sometimes size is an issue, but other than that, it like the clothes felt great. And I'm like, what? This was like a really like a so like such an easy concept for me. And then I started thinking about, being understimulated and overstimulated. And sometimes people are like, oh, it's too bright. So I really like in my room, like once I'm done like staring at screens all day, I like a very low light in my room. So I have like lights hanging out, like fairy lights hanging around my room. And I have like these little lamps that I use a lot more often than the main light. That I only use that usually when I'm working. And now I'm like, as I've been sitting here, I'm like, oh, my eyes kind of hurt. I'm like, because I don't like this like flaring light above me. And I'm like, I think I just want like a softer light somewhere else. But I'm still working on decorating my office space, so it's going to take some time. Anyway, point being is that all of these things we need to be aware of, right? Especially when we are in school. If kids talking gets too overwhelming, and we're not able to process what the teacher is saying, or to learn what's happening, or to memorize things, then we need some sort of accommodation, or we need to be aware of this, so we can wear noise canceling headphones, earplugs, whatever it is that might be helpful for us. um and again, like how you process the world sometimes. Again, my sibling and I have ADHD, but we operate a little bit differently sometimes as well. Because sometimes I will say, hey, does this bother you? And it doesn't really bother them. Like they have like a completely different preference in certain things. And sometimes we're talking about something, and then like we both sort of like zone out. And then we're like, wait, were we talking about something, or were you thinking like processing stuff? And then he would be like, oh, I forgot. And then I was like, oh, me too, right? And then sometimes we both forget, sometimes only one of us forgets, right? So that's sort of like a natural thing that tends to happen with a lot of people with ADHD, but it can be very frustrating to someone who doesn't understand. And it's like, it's not like we're not paying attention on purpose. It's like it's not like we don't care what other people are saying, but it's just sometimes our brain kind of shuts off, and it's hard to think, right? So I just ask I started learning how to ask for clarification, how to say things like, hold on, my brain needs to catch up, because I'm my brain is going too fast or too slow for what's happening, and like words are not coming out. Or like, wait, hold on, can you clarify that point, because I don't think I understood it very well. And that can be very frustrating for people, because a lot of the times when I say, huh, to something that someone said, then my brain kind of catches up on it, right? And then so I'm like, okay, wait, never mind, and then I can answer. Or sometimes I get very distracted, and someone says something that reminds me of something else, and then I'm like, let me just quickly tell you this one story, and I totally forget to answer the question. Again, I'm not doing it on purpose. It's just that's how my brain does things, right? So now I with people that I trust, and I'm like, hey, listen, if you want me to talk about a specific thing, and I think, listen, if you want more examples of this, I think all you have to do is watch mind brain movies and check out how I interact with other people, and how other people are like, no, stop. Like, we can't go off on tangents. We need to focus. And then I'm like, okay, yes, I need to focus. Because I just go off on tangents like I am doing right now. Anyway, again, very, very important for us to understand how we learn best, how we process information best. Is there like an extra step for us uh, when it comes to um, finding the right balance, of how people teach us or how we interact with others, and what's our comfort zone. Because I think it's very important for us to feel comfortable in school or in the at home, in the workplace. It's important for all of us um, to understand what our comfort zone is, what brings us happiness and comfort, and what's outside of our comfort zone. Because sometimes we have to set those boundaries and say, hey, I'm not really comfortable going out or doing stuff in like a big group of people, because especially when there's like, a bunch of ADHDers, because they just talk and talk, talk, and I just can't process that that fast. But I would love to join other, events or group hangouts or whatever, right? We need to again understand what is the comfort zone for us. um if you yourself identify as someone who is neurodivergent, or have a family member, these are essential things that um, would be good to either reflect on or have a conversation about. And you can do this with, with your family, with your friends, with your therapist, someone that you trust, with your partner. Um, who are you? Like, what's your comfort zone? Like I said, it's really important for us to know our comfort zone. How do we learn best? How do you communicate? Because a lot of the times, I even as a therapist, sometimes in the middle of therapy, I say, hey, listen, let me just share, because we use Zoom for work. So sometimes I just say, hey, let me just share the Zoom, or what is it called, ah the whiteboard with you, and I'll show you what I mean, because I don't have the words to tell you what my brain is thinking. And sometimes I wish I could just get the picture that's in my brain and show people, because that would be so much easier than me having to sit there and be like, hmm, like, how do I word this so people don't misunderstand, or for people to understand what I'm trying to say. And sometimes that's why we need the phrases that I was talking about before. We're like, wait, can you wait a minute? I'm trying to process this. Can you repeat? Can I just summarize what I am just can I summarize what I am words? Can I summarize what you were just trying to say to make sure that I understood correctly? Right? Things like that sometimes are essential, especially at work, right? Because, or at school, um because those are the places where if you don't say anything, people are just gonna essentially like steamroll you. And so one of the things that I understand about myself now is that when it comes to me making a decision, in order for me not to make anyone mad, and in order for me not to seem like I'm dumb because it takes me time to process and make a decision, I just immediately say yes. And that's not good. Like, I can't do that. I can just say yes to everything people say. And sometimes I'm like, oh, what did I say that? And then I'm like, yeah, deep down, that was something that I wanted to do. And other times I'm like, oh, now I'm stuck doing this one thing. And now I have to find an excuse to not do it. Right. So have in your back pocket something along the lines of like, hold on, let me think about it and I get back to you. Right. Because if in the moment it's really hard for you to decide something, then take your time, or be like, just ask everyone else and then come back to me, or I'll need to check my schedule to see if it fits. um and what are your limits? Because sometimes, like, just as it is important for us to understand what our comfort zone is, we kind of sometimes have to challenge it, right? Because we don't want to be sort of like stuck in this little tiny space. We want to take up space and be like, no, I would like to um, be a part of different conversations. I would like to be a part of different groups at work. I would like to lead a team, even though, it's a little bit scary, or I am not as comfortable, in my communication skills or whatever. Sometimes we have to um, overcome certain limits, or we have to practice getting outside of our comfort zone. But we need to understand, like, when it's too much, because otherwise it becomes an anxiety attack, a panic attack, because it's just too overwhelming, too much for us. That, again, that's why it's so important for us to understand. And self acceptance, you guys. Uh, this one's tricky. This one is tricky. only because throughout our whole life, which has we have been told, and now we are telling ourselves that there's something wrong with us, that we're just not trying hard enough, that maybe we are the problem. And one, that's not true. And two, it's okay. It's okay for us to be different. It's not, again, it's not like we are doing this on purpose. It's not um like we don't care about other people. It's just sometimes we forget. Sometimes we don't know how important it is to other people. Sometimes we don't catch the cues that people are trying to throw at us. And so that's why direct communication is it's important, just in general. And also, why it's so important for us to be aware of what we're comfortable with, what the limits are, to know, hey, that's just how my brain works. And sometimes I forget words and sometimes I forget things. So I have all of these different things that I will try. So I don't have to forget a lot of things, and that I can be sort of like on top of my game, you know? And, but it takes a while. It can take a while for us to finally be like, you know what? I am happy with who I am, with the way that I look, with the way that I act. It's just, again, there's nothing wrong with me. It's just I am not quote unquote normal, or I don't act like the large majority of people out there. I have different preferences, and that's okay. So, one of the things that, so this is how we can get, like I said, getting to the point of self acceptance um, can be kind of hard. So, this is one way um, to get started on the path, right? You can journal about it. This is a way of like reflecting on the things that you enjoy, um, the things, your limits, certain experiences that you're like, hey, maybe that person was trying to sabotage me, or that person was mean and rude, and I just didn't catch it because X, Y, and Z. Um, so that's a great way to go about that. Practicing, practicing loving ourselves, practicing um accepting ourselves for who we are. Baby steps, right? I like start with the things that you enjoy about yourself, whether it's like I have white hair because I am in my 30s now, and I went through grad school, so I earned these babies. But it's only on one side, and it's kind of like a chunk. They're all kind of clustered together, and I'm like, I really want more white hairs to like grow just on this side, so I have like a chunk of white hair, and I'm like, yeah, just like in the movies, you know. Like I don't know, that's just like the thing that I really want. So I'm like, yeah, like I have white hair, so I don't really care. But so I really like that. And when people notice, then I'm like, yeah, I see like a little clump of white hair right here. And I like it. Most of the time you can't really see it because of the way that I part my hair or style it. But I don't know, I think it's funny. So I really like telling people about it, right? So you can start with the things that you enjoy about yourself. Um, Start saying it out loud, right? Start saying things like, it's my brain, it's my anxiety, it's my ADHD, it's a cultural sort of expectation, right? So we are aware of that. It's not that there's something wrong with me, it's just my brain processes things differently, right? Once I started telling people that, oh, it's my ADHD brain or it's my anxiety, it made it a lot easier for me not to immediately start blaming myself for things I couldn't do. So I highly recommend that. Affirmations, right? Maybe you can create your own affirmation and be like, I can do it. I might not be just like everyone else, but I am still worthy. I am still valuable. I can still offer a lot of things to the world. It's just in a slightly different way, right? Um, I will highly recommend this next one, which is change your lifestyle, and change your lifestyle to fit the lifestyle that you actually want to have, not the lifestyle that you're kind of being forced into. Because that would be a great way of doing it. Once I started sharing the fact that I was a geek and a nerd, it became like I wasn't I wasn't ashamed of it anymore. But for a long time I was, because I was a high school kid, and I knew that if I acted like all the other, like, nerdy geeky kids, I wasn't really going to have a lot of friends. I wasn't going to be liked. So I kind of hid it. I didn't talk to anyone about it unless I found out that, oh, they also liked anime. Oh, they also liked, the same things that I enjoy. But once I was like, yeah, I'm a geek. Yeah, I'm a nerd. Then I don't know, it became a lot easier for me to talk about the things that I enjoy. And I made so many friends. I met so many people because of it. So yeah, change your lifestyle. Schedule around your brain. So again, this is why it's so important for us to understand our own preferences and limitations, because now I know that I need a bunch of breaks. So when I scheduled, and I understand that I am lucky enough that I have a job that allows me to do this. A lot of people don't have this opportunity where they can take as many breaks as they need to, or as they want, in order for their brain to sort of like process. Sometimes it's like, hey, fidget toys. Hey, it's you know, a white noise, or music, or body doubling, or finding a different environment to work. If you know how your brain learns best, then schedule things around that. If you know that you need someone to be there in order for you to be productive, start asking your friends to come and hang out while you're doing, for like, I used to do this thing anymore. Sometimes it works, sometimes depending on like how anxious I am, it might not work. But sometimes I just put a streamer in the background, and just hearing someone talk, it's enough for me to be like, okay, I'm focused. I'm not even paying attention, but it's just there being like another sensory thing happening, or like another kind of person being around. That's helpful. So that's kind of what I mean when, like, schedule things around your brain. If you're more of an night sorry, a night owl, then try to find a job that's at night. So you don't have to force yourself to be awake really early if you just hate it. Try to find a job where there is like less stimulation, or where there's social interaction, if that's something that you prefer. And create a supportive community around you. It is a major, major thing for anybody, regardless of anything. And luckily for you all, I come bearing gifts. So Psychology for Geeks is trying to do this, build a supportive community for fellow geeks, for people who are interested in learning more about and taking care of their mental health. So you can check out our Discord, you can check out our Patreon. We do need a lot of funding in order to be able to continue doing a lot of like cool things like this. And you can follow us on our socials. We highly encourage other people to like interact with each other, because I am geeky and I am nerdy. I just don't know everything. I'm not in every fandom, but we're trying to create places, safe spaces, for people to talk about the things that they enjoy, to talk about, their individual differences, and someone being and having the community be like, okay. Well, anyways, this is Psychology for Geeks, right? Because sometimes that's the best thing that we can do. If somebody says something that's very difficult for them, and then people don't really care about it, because they're like, "Mm, just ramble about the things that you love." I also enjoy it. Like, I would love to hear you talk about One Piece, or talk about anime, or talk about movies or video games. If somebody else enjoys it, then that's a great experience. With Otherwise, we would have been like, well, I will always get told that I talk too much, or no one's interested in the things that I'm interested in. And that's what we need, a community around us, like someone who understands and is supportive of us, and for us to talk about it. Once we have that community, or we have a therapist, or a trusted friend, or trusted coworker, whatever it is, it's important for us to talk about the things that we're experiencing, because that makes it more real. That's kind of why it's important to say it out loud sometimes, because it's kind of like a validation of yourself. Like, you're feeling sad and you say, "I'm sad today." Like it validates it in a different way. Um, and that can be very, very helpful. be yourself. It's hard. It's gonna take some time. um, but I think it's the best, for you and your loved ones, to start being yourself more often and have that communication, right? Ask for help if you need it. Set boundaries with people, and you'll get along just fine. Now that I understand that I get hangry, sometimes, I don't know if it's age or I've always been a hangry kind of person. I just pretend that I wasn't. Now I can flat out tell my siblings or whoever I'm hanging out with, I'm like, I'm really hungry and I need to eat right now, or like I carry a snack with me, because otherwise I would just be very upset and snarky the whole time, right? I have to monitor sometimes my energy levels. If I am socializing with people and hanging out, and then I realize, hey, I'm really tired, I just want to go home. Then I go home and I tell people, hey, I'm done for today. I had a lot of fun, but I'm done socializing. Like, I have no more energy to socialize. And it's not like we don't enjoy or we don't like it there. It's just a preference. We only have so much energy, and it can take a lot more from us if we're not used to socializing with others. So that's why it's so important, again, to have a supportive community, so they understand that, hey, you don't have any more, your social battery run out for today. Cool, we'll see you next time. Right? There's no stay longer, don't do this, don't do that, because it's just gonna create, like, it's gonna feel us, make us feel guilty. Again, kind of going on this path of like there's something wrong with you because you're trying to leave earlier than anyone else, kind of thing. So yes, ask for help, be yourself, talk about it, set boundaries, all that stuff. Seek professional help, especially. And yeah, so again, these this presentation was aimed just to spark a bit of reflection, a bit of, give you a bit of information as to what the neurodivergent lifestyle should be or could be. And for you to go out there and talk to your therapist, talk to your loved ones, take some time to reflect and understand yourself or maybe your loved ones, um, a lot more. So, that being said, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and we hope to see you in the next one. If you have any ideas or recommendations of like podcasts or like safe spaces for people who are neurodivergent, or parents of people who are neurodivergent, um, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share. And give us some money because we really do need it. We have a Patreon. You can make a one-time donation. You can volunteer with us with Psychology for Geeks. That way, we can provide more of these safe spaces for everyone. And don't forget to reframe and re-enchant your life. And we'll see you next time. Bye.